G'day, I'm Scott Poynton and welcome to another podcast. And today we have the pleasure of welcoming Andrew Reeves. And Andrew is the Commercial Director of WhatIF Foods. We'll let Andrew explain who WhatIF Foods is and what they're doing, but they are a member of the Pond Foundation, the foundation that I established in Switzerland in 2021, and they're doing some amazing work. And we are here in Ghana on the project that Pond Foundation is doing with WhatIF, and looking forward to hearing from Andrew about the company's philosophy, what it's doing to bring a planet-based food, a planet-based approach to working with farmers, working with customers. So Andrew Reeves, welcome to our podcast.
Hello, Scott.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to have you here. And so just tell us about WhatIF Foods, mate. Tell us what's the company doing and a bit of background and what's its philosophy.
Yeah, so WhatIF Foods was a startup in Singapore that was established around 2014, originally designed as a company to create new technologies to find better ways to do things in the food industry. Chris, the founder, he's a veteran of the food industry and he saw a lot of things that could be improved and felt that he had a lot to offer and that the company Names, as it was called then, could provide technology to give better solutions to some of the challenges the food industry faces.
What sort of challenges, mate? Because I know Chris was very focused on the sustainability side, and so it was some of those things, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Chris was really focused on this nutritional paradox where we're eating plenty of carbs to sustain us, but not enough nutrients. So there's plenty of food available, but it's not getting to all the right people. In the West, we're eating too much. We're having obesity issues. And in the third world countries, you've got the challenge where they don't have enough really to get the nutrition they need. So this was the driver behind that. So some of the early projects, for example, was the new way of producing instant noodles. So the instant noodle industry is a huge industry. Instant noodles are made instant by drying them, and the way you dry them is to deep fry them. So the deep frying process uses a lot of palm oil. So the thought process was, what if we could take out all that palm oil and reduce the reliance on palm oil in the instant noodle industry? So there were companies around at that time also producing air-dried noodles. It was a thing already, but the challenge was it wasn't scalable. So if you are making air-dried noodles on a traditional line, your productivity is very low and your costs are very high. So it wasn't commercially viable. So they set out to look at how to fix that challenge. And they came up with a solution by looking at other industries. How do other industries dry things? And they came up with a new technology for air frying the noodles, so in very warm, very hot air in a very short space of time, so it becomes commercially viable. So they invented a process that can make instant noodles without the deep frying, but still at the throughputs and capacities and to be competitive with traditional oil frying. So that was one of the projects. There were a number of other projects that they were embarked upon as well. And so during the COVID pandemic, this obviously affected the business model of Names. And many large companies were too focused, rightly so, on how they managed the process through COVID, making sure their workers are safe, making sure they're still able to produce. And so new technologies, new projects became secondary. So Chris, during that period, it was a challenging time for the company. How are they going to survive? So he took the very brave decision to say, wait, we've got these technologies. Why don't we launch them ourselves? Sticking to the mantra of the company, what if we did it ourselves? And that's how the company transformed itself from being Names to being WhatIF Foods, because we're always asking ourselves, what if we could do things in a better way? So that's how the company started up, and using the technology that we had invented for the instant noodles. So we have a range of very delicious noodles that are much healthier than your traditional instant noodles. Plus also the R&D team have been working a lot on how to create a delicious plant-based milk using this future fit crop or forgotten crop of the Bambara.
The Bambara, yes, the amazing Bambara, which is what we're doing here in Ghana. And so just tell us about the Bambara. It's, as you say, a future fit, forgotten crop. And Chris, we put in inverted commas, discovered it. He discovered it for himself. Obviously, it wasn't a new to science type discovery. The people here in West Africa where it's grown were happily growing it and consuming it, but it was sort of new to the food industry, commercialising it. So just tell us a bit about that story. How did WhatIF Foods come to, in inverted commas, discover that Bambara and take it to where you are today, where there's amazing plant-based milks and noodles?
Yeah, I mean, that's also another interesting story. Chris was attending a conference in Malaysia, and at the checkout, he was in the lift with another conference member who was from an organisation in Malaysia that were looking at future fit crops. And one of the crops that they were doing a lot of research on was the Bambara groundnut. And so they got briefly chatting in the lift, and this other person gave Chris a leaflet about the Bambara, and he thought nothing about it till later when he picked it up on the way back to the airport and read about the Bambara, and I guess had a light bulb moment to say, wow, this is something really unique and powerful that we think would be advantageous to the food industry if we could get this more well known and bring it into commercial use.
Yeah. So expand a bit on future fit. What do you mean by future fit, mate?
So the organisation in Malaysia that the Professor Said that Chris bumped into in the elevator, they were looking at different types of crops that we could bring back to our diet. So the thinking was that we've narrowed down our food selections to a handful of crops for efficiency. So we're eating a handful of crops, and a handful of farmed animals constitute a huge proportion of our diet. But there are thousands and thousands of other plants and species that we could be consuming as foodstuff, but the food industry, in its drive for efficiency, has deselected those.
Just excluded them out.
Yes. So the organisation in Malaysia, supported by Nottingham University from the UK, they were looking at which of these crops would be winners to reintroduce into the food system, and Bambara was one of them. And I think the reason they were looking at Bambara is because it was also suitable to grow in Southeast Asia, as well as growing well here in Western Africa, where it's native to.
Yeah, so it's native here, and the concept, the amazing thing about the Bambara is that it's quite happy in degraded soils. It's quite happy in the concept of the future fit really speaks to, we are expecting with climate change hotter, drier climates, tougher growing conditions. Bambara does need some water, but it's a tough little plant, and the idea is that it could be planted in these areas to help regenerate soils because it's a legume, so it brings nitrogen back to the soils. But it's also okay with less water. It's okay on degraded soils, and so this is where this concept of future fit comes in. But beyond all that, it's extraordinary when it comes to nutrients, right? To tell us a bit about the amazing little Bambara bean.
Yeah, I think prior to that, though, I think also here in Western Africa, as I've discovered being here this week, and I know my other colleagues who've been here have mentioned the same thing, is that it's started to be forgotten in its home country. It's been a crop that in the past was more prevalent, but there are other crops that are maybe easier for them to sell.
Cash crops,
yeah, that have really replaced Bambara here. And so it started to be a little bit forgotten even by the people who know it as well. So I think it's a very great opportunity to reintroduce it back here as a fantastic product and something that can generate an income as well as doing all the wonderful things that it does as the legume, as you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, the Bambara, the reason we fell in love with it is because it really fitted our philosophy of trying to make a better food industry. And we can see the opportunity to build a whole portfolio of products around this wonderful crop. As you said, it's very dense in its nutritional composition. And we have a process where we capture all of the nutrients that are in the bean. So this is something very important as well. And I think what's also critical to us is that we are on a path of regeneration. That's our mantra, is we want to regenerate, we want to give back rather than take away. And if you look at the food industry, not only the food industry, many industries, but particularly the food industry where we are operating, is that the traditional products on the shelf are contributing to the climate change. They are more destructive than regenerative, and we need to change that balance. We need to move away from monoculture crops. We need to move away from having no diversity to bringing diversity back. And the Bambara is a fantastic product that can really fit to that whole approach that we're taking.
Yeah, I mean, we should say it's jam-packed with fibre, it's jam-packed with proteins. And I remember Chris saying, and I'm a forester, so this is all fascinating to me, that I think there's 8 essential amino acids. Of all the amino acids, I don't know how many there are altogether, about 20 or so.
22, I think.
22, there you go. Of those amino acids, there's 8 that the body can't make. And the Bambara has all 8 essential amino acids. So it really is a very, very nutritious food. Yeah. Rich in nitrogen. What did we learn yesterday? That here in West Africa, some incredible percentage of people suffer anemia.
Yes.
And the Bambara is rich in nitrogen. And so what was happening, as you described, is that the major food industry players had supported the farmers and inspired the farmers to just go cash crop. Because if you can grow it, you can sell it. So they moved very heavily away from these crops like Bambara because there was no market for it. No one bought Bambara. People grew it here and there because, well, they liked it or they could sell it a little bit in the local market. But this crop was becoming locally extinct, and this is an amazing little crop that grows on degraded land. It brings nitrogen back to the soil, jam-packed with nutrients, was just becoming forgotten, as you say. And so the company coming back and discovering a way of using the Bambara in these foods brings back the opportunity for the farmers to grow another crop, diversify their crop base, but also brings an opportunity back for this nutrition to get into human bodies, as we say, that really need it. And so WhatIF's got this mantra of regeneration, as you say, but underneath that you've got these 3 pillars, right? Reconnect, replenish, and restore. Just tell us a bit about that, mate.
Yeah, I think just before we do that, I think in terms of the nutritional aspect, so what's great about it is that it has a good source of protein, and people are always looking for high protein products, but more importantly, it's got really great source of fiber. And from the studies we've initiated so far, we believe it has very good prebiotic capabilities. And so we think this is going to be a major benefit from a health perspective of drinking the Bambara milk. The fiber content is not only the content, but the quality of the fiber is very, very high. And then the other point, as you were saying, the anemia rates are very high in developing countries like Ghana. And so more iron into their diet is critical. And our Bambara milk delivers around 30% of your daily requirement of iron.
In one glass?
In one glass.
It's extraordinary.
So if we can get more people to drink the milk in Ghana, as well as in the Western markets where we're promoting it, I think it can have a great impact on people's health. And I think you've seen already anecdotally from a number of the farmers who have started to consume the product as well as grow the beans, they're also seeing the positive effects of the nutritional aspect.
It's exactly right. The farmers are saying, can we get more? Can we get more? Because they're finding that it just makes them feel better. I mean, it's delicious to taste as well, we should say.
Exactly. And I think that's the most important thing, as a food product, it has to taste good.
Yeah.
And that has been an absolute critical factor for us. It has to taste good. And then when we talk about our milk, it also has to be nutritious, and our product is every bit as nutritious as cow's milk in terms of the calcium and vitamin D. We also fortify it with vitamin B12, so for our vegan consumers, they will get a good source of B12 by drinking the milk as well. And also milk has many functional uses. If you want to make a nice latte or a cappuccino, it has to foam. And our milk does a fantastic job of foaming, and we do that without adding any preservatives or additives or stabilizers, unlike a lot of the products on the market in the other plant-based space. But back to your question about our regeneration pillars. Yeah, this is a very key philosophy for WhatIF Foods. Everything we do is driven by regeneration. What we like to say, it's our lust for life. We want to bring back life as opposed to remove life. And that's bringing back life to the soil, it's bringing back life to communities, and it's enriching people's lives through healthier food. And within regeneration, we have what we call the 3 pillars: restore, reconnect, and replenish. Our reconnect pillar is very much about reconnecting with the farmers, who are the most important link in the food chain. You know, if we want to have good, healthy crops, we need the farmers to be growing the right products and doing it in the right ways. The second point is restore, and here we're talking about the restoration of soils. And the restoration of the soil is made possible by growing legumes such as the Bambara, which, as you mentioned earlier, brings back the nitrogen to the soil. It also will bring biodiversity back into that soil. And a healthier soil is capturing and storing more carbon, so it has the positive effect to the climate. And then the replenish part, this is relating to the product itself and the nutritional aspect of the product, being able to replenish our bodies by giving us the nutrients that we need to be healthy and fit. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a process where we capture all of the nutrients that are in the Bambara bean and deliver those nutrients through our products, which is not always the case with some of the other plant-based milks. They'll only take a fraction of the raw material that's being used to create that type of plant milk, and so you only get a fraction of the benefit. So most of the products have lower protein, significantly lower fiber, and less nutritionally dense. We were very keen to make sure that we capture everything. And the other reason we do that is we don't want any waste. You know, we don't want to be creating another stream of waste. We want to use everything that's in the bean.
You mentioned that the company really had that transformation during the pandemic, 2020. I know, as you say, it was a tough time when all the brakes went on, and it was a big moment. I've spoken to Chris about that, and he said, look, it was really tough because, we could have just as easily gone out of business, and they've dived into WhatIF Foods and making the products. So here we are, middle of 2023, so just gone 3 years into the life of WhatIF. Obviously, as you say, the company goes back to 2014 when it was really focused on food tech. But in 3 short years, where are you now? Obviously, we've got the milks, we've got the noodles, the products that you're selling in the market. Started in Singapore. Where's the company now? Where are the products? Where can people find these amazing products?
Yeah, I mean, it's been one heck of a journey. Yeah, you can imagine during the pandemic. So the product was launched originally in Singapore. I mean, a couple of challenges there. Singapore is not the largest consumer base market. It's only 5.5 million people, so it's a finite market size. Plus, it launched during the pandemic where you couldn't do any sampling, you couldn't get in any interaction with consumers, everything was online. So the first year was a challenge, but it was also a good learning curve for us. We were very fortunate that the 2 major retailers in Singapore were very supportive of what we're doing and gave us the chance to be on shelf, and we're still on shelf today, which is great news. And the sales continue to grow every month as more and more people discover the product. So yeah, I mean, we all started there, and it was quite challenging, but it was a very steep learning curve. I personally joined the company at the beginning of 2022, but I think to give some context, I've known Chris for more than 20 years. We worked together in a large multinational a long time ago, and our career paths have sort of followed each other, if you like, globally. We've been in similar parts of the world, and we both ended up in Singapore. So that's how we managed to keep in contact. And so, I came on board in the beginning of 2022, and it's been quite a roller coaster ride. So so as you said, we were in Singapore. We were also selling in Malaysia. And since then, we've launched in the USA. So we took a very conscious decision to say we really need to make the most impact. And if we want to make the most impact, we need to be in markets that have the size to drive that impact. And so the US market, with its around 400 million population, and a large proportion of the population who understand the challenges of climate change and nutritious food. So we felt it was necessary to launch there. So we did that middle of May. We launched in the USA. And
May 2022.
May 2022.
Yep.
We're originally just selling online through our web store. But over that period, and we also did a trade show called the Fancy Food Show in Las Vegas around February time. And there we made some fantastic connections as well. So we managed to connect with a very good broker network who have done a fantastic job in helping us to build relationships with the key national distributors. So we're now available in the two key national distributors of KeHE and UNFI. So that gives us nationwide coverage to supply to all the major natural whole foods supermarkets. And since being listed sort of in January this year, we now start to roll out the product across a number of their distribution centres from East Coast to West Coast. And we're increasing month by month our penetration onto shelf into different states across the USA. So it's been quite an incredible growth rate that we have seen. I mean, from what we understand, it can take brands 2 to 3 years to get to the stage that we're at, and we've managed to do that in less than a year to get listed nationwide, to get on shelf from New York to Los Angeles and in between, as well as our online sales. And we also launched onto Amazon in December last year, and that is just going also strength to strength each month as people become more aware about our products and are able to discover us on Amazon. So yeah, we've expanded in the USA. At the same time, we've also launched products in New Zealand and Australia. So we're on the shelves now in New Zealand. The noodles are going really well, and the milks are now starting to run in those markets as well. And we also launched in Taiwan. And Taiwan came about through an article that was written by CNN around May last year that highlighted what we're doing. And Lawrence, this gentleman from Taiwan, he read the story, got in touch with us, and hey, I want to bring this to Taiwan. And he's done that, and he's doing a fantastic job there. So yeah, we're expanding across Asia Pacific. We're expanding in the USA, and then not to forget here in Ghana, where we've also launched the product. And it's been fantastic this week to see our milk on the shelves across many different supermarkets, from the big hypermarkets to the local petrol station forecourt stores. People are buying our milk here in Ghana and enjoying our milk.
And, you mentioned how quickly this has all unfolded. And my sense is that obviously you're all great salespeople and, you've got to, you can do a great pitch, but it just seems that the story deeply resonates with companies. They love the idea of the regeneration, and it is a new concept. It's starting to replace sustainability. But what's so fascinating, I think, about what WhatIF is doing is that there's a lot of richness to the story. It's not just something you read on the website. There's a lot of actual regenerative work going on, apart from the fact that the products are beautiful and they're great for you. I think people, like those distributors you mentioned, they're touched by the story and they want to be part of this journey. Is that what you're feeling, Andrew? Is that people are just inspired by the whole approach?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think going back to when we did that trade show in February in Las Vegas, we were in a very tiny little booth right at the back of the hall. So you really had to work to come and find us. And our master broker, Michael Moss, He must have read about us in the catalogue and said, hey, this is interesting. I want to see that. And he took the time to come all the way to the back.
Got his GPS out, navigated to find you.
And he instantly loved what we were doing. And so, as you say, the story, it sells itself. Once people know the story, it really sells itself. So our challenge as salespeople is to get as many people to hear the story as possible. But once they hear the story, they understand what we're doing and they believe wholeheartedly that this is a fantastic thing to do. And I think you're right. That's what's enabled us to mobilize distributors and retailers to our story, because it's something different. So our biggest challenge is that it is something different. So you have to explain to people. But that's the opportunity, because then they want to listen. Okay, what is it you're saying?
What is a BAM nut?
Exactly. And this is if I had a penny for every time someone asked me what is a BAM nut, I could probably retire now.
Yes.
Thankfully I didn't, so I can continue to work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so at first we felt this is a bit of a barrier, right? What is a BAM nut? But it's not. It's the conversation. It's the best chat up line we could hope for, right? How do we start the conversation? It's, hey, well, what's a BAM nut? So when we go to a trade show, people walk past and everybody knows oat, so oat is oat, almond is almond, but then BAM nut, what is that? And everyone's intrigued. Then they come and have a look, and we show them what the beans look like, and then they understand, it's a legume. And then we tell them all the great things behind it, and that's also great. But hey, how does it taste? And then they taste the product, and it's like, wow, it also tastes good. So I think this is the critical part for us, is that we put a lot of effort in to make sure the products taste good. So they have to deliver what they're supposed to deliver as a foodstuff. But then the backstory is so much richer than most of the products that you'll find on the shelf today. And that's where we see that once people engage with the story, they're totally sold on this concept. And that's what we're doing more and more. And as I say, our biggest challenge is to get the broadest awareness as possible for our story, because we know when we talk to anybody one-to-one, nobody says, that's a stupid idea, or that's an awful product. Yeah. Everybody's convinced about it. So once we can get that message out to more and more people, we're quite confident that this will just continue to expand, which is going to be great, obviously, for us as an organization, but it's great for the farmers because it gives them the opportunity to grow more Bambara, and which is then great for the soil, because more Bambara means healthier soil, which then means greater for the environment because there's more carbon sequestration. Yeah.
So you mentioned the farmers, and you've been here just over a week now, obviously visited the stores to see how all that's unfolding, but earlier this week we had a couple of terrific visits out to the field where we did meet with our partner farmers. We visited, I think, 5 communities altogether. We visited the farm that's being set up here as like a little research farm. Just give us your impressions about how's that week been for you, mate, here in Ghana. First time in Ghana, I think, and that really seeing the roots of the project. And as we had a meeting last night with the team, and as you said, WhatIF could just as easily come and buy from some traders, ask some traders to go and get some beans. It's grown here across West Africa. It could be. I just should say here locally they talk about Bambara beans, and but it is a groundnut, so there is some confusion around beans and groundnut. So, when we say Bambara beans or Bambara groundnuts, it's the same thing. But it's grown in Nigeria. You could just as easily just buy it from traders. But WhatIF had this regenerative philosophy, this philosophy of reconnecting to the farmers. Set up the project here in February last year, and you got to see some of those farmers that grew some of the BAM nuts last year. That's going into the milk product, and of course we're about to have the second planting, and hopefully that's going to go well. But you've had this opportunity to come back to that, that sort of the roots of the project. How's that been for you, mate? And what was the experience?
Yeah, I think by visiting the communities and meeting the farmers, that just underlines everything what we're about and what we're doing. Like you say, we could just have come to Ghana and found a trader and say, hey, we're going to need this amount of beans. But if we do that, we're not impacting lives, we're not impacting the environment.
You're just the same as everyone else.
We're just the same as everyone else. And then we don't have a rich story, and then the big supermarkets in the West are not going to be so it's another product and it's going to be complicated to tell that story. So it wouldn't make sense to do that either. We need to have that rich story for what people to say, oh yeah, I want to drink the BAM nut milk and not the almond milk or the oat milk or the cow milk. So I think it's very important we have that holistic story. Otherwise, the message doesn't work. But so seeing the farmers this week in the various communities that we've visited, and even at this very early stage, the small impact that it's already starting to have is very humbling. And I think just to think what can be achievable once this project has been running 2 to 3 years is just mind-blowing. I mean, we've talked to communities that, they have a number of pressing needs to upgrade their infrastructure in their communities. They need better sanitation, cleaner water,
education,
better housing, education, better healthcare. And these things can only come when you've got an economy that can sustain those investments. And I think this is the most important thing for us, is that we're going to work directly with farmers. Farmers are going to be paid directly. We know they've received the money. We know that they've been paid the fair price for the product. And they are then in a position to use the money they're earning from this crop to enrich their own lives. And as our sales grow and our demand grows, that's just going to increase as well. So I think it's been very humbling. And I think also, we visited one of the communities, and the lady stood up to thank us. And my comment to you was that in reality, it's us that should be thanking the farmers, not the other way around. Because without them, we don't have these Bambara beans to process. And without them, we don't have this rich, diverse story of really having a circular economy that's good for people, that's good for business, good for the soils, good for the environment. So yeah, I think we're at the beginning of the journey. And there's still a huge amount of work to do, and it's going to keep us busy for the next 5 to 10 years for sure.
I reckon 30.
Yeah, well, I think 30 is a bit too long for me.
Probably me too. But I was saying to the farmers that we're coming back with our Zimmer frames, and just to see how things are going in 30 years' time.
But yeah, I mean, just to see the small impact we're already making, and just to know that each year that impact will get bigger, that we can help their children to a better education so they can have better futures. We can help them understand better hygiene practices, better health practices, and give them the equipment that can help them on that side of things as well. So yeah, it's very very uplifting to see that and to be part of something where we know we will be able to create an income that can then be used to upgrade the quality of life in some of these communities.
Yeah. Quite extraordinary. And one thing I really want you to just expand on a little bit, this is not a charity project. This is business. And of course, you're working in partnership with Pond Foundation, that is a non-profit. We've got the Hillary's Kids Initiative. But it's very much, everything is unfolding in a spirit of partnership. And, it's not possible for the farmers to farm if they're sick. It's not possible for the women farmers in particular to find time to farm. And the Bambara is traditionally grown a lot by women if they're busy looking after children, particularly sick children, or because the kids haven't got a school to go to, or there's no good quality medicines available. Just expand a little bit, if you can, Andrew, on that philosophy. WhatIF Foods is coming here saying, we want to show the world that you can tick all of those boxes on being regenerative, on bringing life back to soils, on life back to communities. But you can do that making money too. Maybe not the same amount of money as if you're coming in here to rip them off, but there's no joy in that either. So if you could just expand upon that philosophy that the company really lives through in everything it does.
Well, I think if we took the approach of just coming in here to make as much money as possible, yeah, it could be successful for a couple of years. But in the long term, I don't think it's commercially viable. I think over the long term, what we're doing will be far more profitable than if we took the traditional approach of just coming in, finding the cheapest price, ripping them off, and taking the profit ourselves. So if we did that, we don't have a story, and the retailers are not going to buy into our story as well. So this is very much a business-driven opportunity. We want to work with farming communities who will grow a product for us that we can then convert into something that the world will want to consume. So that's our commitment to them. You grow it, we'll find applications for it to sell to the international markets as well as the domestic market. So that's a good business practice, yeah. And I think also we have to move the mindset that it has to be a win-lose relationship. It doesn't have to be. There can be a win-win relationship. It might sound cliched, but I really do believe in it. Is that if the farmers win, we're going to win. And to your point as well is that, if they are sick because the water is not clean enough, they're not going to be productive. So it's in our interest to make sure they have clean water. If their children are not in school, they're going to be in the same circle of only reaching a certain tertiary education and not fulfilling some of their potential. So if we give communities access to an income that can then empower them to upgrade their schools, upgrade their healthcare facilities, upgrade their sanitation processes, then I think this is the best way forward. We are here as a helping hand. We're not here as a handout. We're a helping hand. So we want to show the communities what can be possible, but ultimately it's up to them to reinvest what they're going to earn to upgrade their infrastructure and their livelihoods. And we can help them with that, and we definitely will. And as you mentioned, the Hillary's Kids initiative that the Pondit Foundation is managing is a great way to show the right way to go, to start the process off, to show how easy it can be to give learning kits to the children for very, very little money. And then with the Water Save project, to show how easy it is to actually have clean water in the communities for very little money. So we can help at the startup, to raise funds, to get things off the ground, to show what is possible. But as we move forward, I think it's going to be more and more down to the communities themselves to say, right, we're generating this level of income. We know we want better sanitation. We know we want a better school. We know we want better healthcare. So let's make it happen. And I'm sure that will happen. And from the feedback we got from some of the communities, this is what they're saying anyway. And I'm sure that once they have more earning power, they'll start to use those funds to really enrich their lives.
Absolutely. We're seeing it already. The communities are diving in and they're contributing too. They're not just saying, can you help us with this? Can you help us with that? Can you help? They're saying, right, we're going to build a school. It'd be great if you could help us put a roof on it. Boom. Okay, let's put a roof on it. Doesn't cost a lot of money, but it's a spirit of partnership. Yep. And these communities the people are very, very poor, but they have great dignity. And they don't want just handouts. And so I think it's amazing to see how this spirit of partnership is growing. We've only been here a year, and already we're seeing changes. We visited a school where the learning kit's $2 for a learning kit, full of little notebooks and pencils and pens, and the kids are learning how to write. It's uplifting, and we don't know where that's going to go. But we hope in the future to see these kids coming back, with tertiary education and with jobs and great opportunities for their families. So last thing, Andrew, you're wearing this really funky T-shirt, Better. And yesterday you had one with a zombie on it. And we visited the communities, you had one with a dinosaur on it. And they're aliens. What's this about?
Okay, so what we were grappling with, as I mentioned earlier, when we tell anyone our story one-to-one, everybody gets it, everybody loves it. So how do we get noticed? How do we get people, the awareness out there so people stop and say, what the heck is that?
What's that?
What are these guys talking about? So we partnered with an indie marketing agency in New York called Fableworks. And we had many conversations with Rick and Marcel, and they really started to understand from myself and Chris and Amelia and the rest of the team what we're about at WhatIF Foods, what we're trying to communicate. And they came up with this slogan, a better. To really encapsulate the regeneration, to put it in an easy form for people to understand it. And the better is our philosophy that every day we want to do better, and tomorrow we can do even better. So a better is what we're always striving for. And so we want people to recognize WhatIF Foods are better. WhatIF Foods are better, and that's what we're aiming towards. Then the other thing we looked at is that we really need some spokespeople, some ambassadors to really shout about our product. A-list ambassadors are out of our league at this point in time. We're still a small startup. We can't afford that. And so they came up with the concept of unexpected spokespeople who thankfully don't cost anything. And these unexpected spokespeople range from dinosaurs, zombies, and aliens. And as you quite rightly say, what the heck has that got to do with Bambara? And what's it got to do with plant-based milk? And what's it got to do with anything? So what we wanted to do is to find a light-hearted way to highlight the issue without it coming across too scary, but still at the level to say, oh right, yeah, we need to think about that.
Something inspiring and fun, right?
Yeah. So the dinosaurs, for example, they were around at the last catastrophic climate event. Yeah, a huge meteorite hits Earth, and they wiped out, extinct. The planet's still here. It's doing fine and it's okay. The message we have to get out as well is that the planet's going to be fine. It's the people who are screwed. That's what our dinosaur friends tell us, is that if we don't take care of the climate, we will have a situation on this planet where it's no longer habitable for us. We will become extinct. The planet will carry on. So that was the reason we took dinosaurs. Yeah, and everyone loves a dinosaur. As we saw, even the young kids in the community,
they loved the shirt. They loved it, yeah. And it's not just any dinosaur. It's a sunglass wearing, pretty cool looking dinosaur.
Sunglass wearing T-Rex. I mean, what can be cooler than that? So that was the message. And then we launched that for Earth Day this year to get that message out that, go Bamnut or go extinct. It's an extreme slogan, but just to catch people's attention. The next activation that we're planning is to use our alien friends. So we had this other concept was, what if there were aliens coming to conquer planet Earth and they get here and they think, oh no, the humans are going to destroy the planet before we get a chance to take it over. So that's why these aliens are now going to be telling us, hey, look after the climate because we want to invade your
we want a healthy planet.
You're our planet B.
Yeah.
We're going to take it over, but don't destroy it before we get a chance to take it over. So that's why the aliens come into that. And then the zombies, we thought, who else needs a healthy body? We all crave a healthy body, but zombies crave a healthy body because they want to feed off healthy human bodies.
They want to eat humans.
So they're telling humans, say, come on, eat healthy, eat these Bamnut products, get healthy, and we can feed on you. So that's the thinking that we had behind these unexpected spokespeople. It's fun, it's engaging, but it has a serious message behind it as well. And that's what we want to do, is to put it in a way that is accessible for people to understand our message, but still make them stop and think, oh, that's a good point there. We need to think about what we're doing and how we're doing things.
Yeah, people seem to really love that, and it goes with the story, the backstory of the product, with what's happening here in Ghana, the nutrition, the taste, all of those things. But you mentioned how quickly this is sort of moving, and there is this sense that people are wanting companies to behave in this way, but you've got a particular market that you're really targeting. And tell us a bit about that, mate.
Yeah, so this brand is all focused towards the Gen Z population and the next generations to come after the Gen Z. The reason that we're so passionate about that, so particularly for Chris and myself, our kids are Gen Z age, and we want to look at what can we do to leave a better world behind for our kids, grandkids, and the next generations. So that's what really motivates us to create this brand for that Gen Z audience. The other thing as well, the Gen Z are the first generation that have been brought up since kindergarten with messages of doom and gloom about the environment. So my generation, your generation, when we were their age, we didn't have to worry about the climate. We didn't have to worry about these things. So we just went about our lives not even knowing that there was a climate disaster looming. Then you had the millennial generation, who were the first ones to really start to get this message across, and they started to look at how can we be more sustainable. But the generation now, the Gen Zs, they're the ones that have been bombarded with this from birth, the climate disaster, and this has created climate anxiety. More than 85% of kids in the US are climate anxious, and it doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum they're on, they're all feeling this same climate anxiety. So we really want to create this brand for that climate anxious Gen Z generation, to say, yes, there are pending issues that need fixing, but there are solutions. And WhatIF Foods is all about solutions. And that's why we try to put it in a more light-hearted way, to say, yes, we know that these are problems. We don't need to keep telling you what the problems are. You know that already. The BBC will tell you that. CNN will tell you that. We will tell you that there are solutions. And this is one of the solutions we believe in. This whole regeneration process is a solution we think can have a major impact on the climate. And the Bambara is the fantastic conduit to making all of that happen. So yeah, and that also then brings us to our unexpected spokespeople. We think that we'll tap into that Gen Z consumer base as well.
Last night we had a meeting with the team, and you mentioned that in 10 years' time you're probably going to be looking at retiring. And I don't know if that'll happen. We'll wait and see. But in 10 years' time, and you're going to come to Ghana and manage the farm and the demonstration farm and sit in the lodge there. That'll be cool. But in 10 years' time, as you are moving perhaps into retirement, and you're looking back, what do you see? Where will WhatIF Foods and Bambara be in 10 years' time?
Yeah, maybe it's not retirement. Maybe it's a change of career.
Change of career. Host of the rock farm.
Exactly.
Of the
Going
farm.
into the hospitality sector.
Welcoming guests to the farm.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think this is definitely the reason I said that is because it's really a 10-year project. It's a 10-year horizon for us to really start to see the impact. We started really at pace last year from a commercial side, but also on the outreach side. So we started the whole process of connecting with communities, and we got a lot of good learnings in 2022 and 2023. It's ramped up exponentially. We see, so it's in parallel. So what we're ramping up on the commercial side, you're ramping up here on the supply side as well. And I think that's just going to continue to grow. We have a lot of plans to actually bring significant investment into northern Ghana. We haven't even spoke about the biochar.
We haven't spoken about biochar. No. We could talk for the next 4 hours.
Which I know is your favourite subject. Yes. So we haven't even touched on that yet. So that will take us to a whole new level, is when we bring in the investment to manufacture biochar at scale in this region and start to really have some impact in terms of the carbon drawdown. So I see that over the next 2, 3, 5 years is what's going to be happening, is that we'll continue to tell the story to major international markets as well as Western African markets. The nutrition story, the climate story, the outreach story, the enriching of people's lives story. So I think that will just continue to get better and better, as we say, our better in action. And I think that will see the next 3 to 5 years, and then the 5 years after that will just see it going to a much more higher level of productivity. And as I say, hopefully within 10 years, I can look back and say, well, that was a fantastic journey.
What a ride.
What a ride. And what we've done in 10 years, most companies don't do in 100 years. And I think also as well, if we can start to inspire some of our peers to say, well, hang on a minute, there is another way to do things. We don't have to follow this existing model. The existing model is the lazy way.
It's exploitation.
Yeah? I sit in London. I send some trader here, and they do all the work. It's just lazy. We get out there and do it. There's no reason we can't do it. And those companies with much deeper pockets than us can have much bigger impact than we can. So hopefully we can inspire them to also think about their business models and follow that. So that for me, a success in 10 years will be that obviously WhatIF Foods is a very successful company, and successful for the right reasons, because it's raised a number of communities out of the current level of poverty, given them even more dignity in their communities. It's converted people to consume crops that are not currently well known, and to be willing to experiment with other crops to break this cycle of monoculture. And if we in 10 years' time have a number of peers doing the same thing, that will be a success, because only together will we make that impact. WhatIF Foods on its own can't sequester or draw down all the carbon that's been pumped up there for the past 150 years. We need the other multinational organizations to come and look at how we do things and say, we can do the same thing, and we've got the money to make the impact as well. Let's stop this lazy approach of, we'll just destroy some more rainforest, or we'll just outsource it to traders, or we'll just find ways around corrupt practices. Let's change the way we do things. Let's show people that this method works for business across the whole value chain, and not only for those at the top of the value chain.
Well, that'll be a great place to be, and I think we can get there. I absolutely believe it. And I think already people are noticing, and companies are noticing. And it's just such a great story. And of course, now we've got things like social media and things where we can get our story out there and let people know what's going on. So it's been great talking to you, Andrew, and thanks so much for coming to Ghana to see what's happening here. And well, that's just going to keep a watch on WhatIF Foods, and we'll share more for the listeners and of what we're doing in the future. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for hosting me this week with the rest of the team. It's been a fantastic experience, and I look forward to coming back again in the very near future.
Look forward to having you. Thanks so much, Andrew.
Thank you.